everybody, Clarence Chongo here, representing Financial Insight. We are at the EY Budget 2025 analysis that has been just come to a close. And I'm sitting here with the managing partner, or the country managing partner for EY Zambia, Mr. Patrick Mawere. Welcome to Financial Insight.
Thank you, Clarence. I'm glad to be here.
Indeed. So obviously it's budget week, and we've just had a very deep dive into the budget that was presented by the Honorable Minister last week. Yeah. What were your key takeaways from the budget before we come to the discussion today?
I think the key takeaways, one is the context. It's coming at a time when we have significant challenges as a country. So meaning the minister has almost prepared a holding budget. Mm-hmm. Nothing too ambitious, but also nothing too drastic. So you see there's no incentives. You see there's nothing much in terms of investing for growth. It's more investing for stability. And that's why the theme of the budget talks about resilience. It's really a budget built on surviving the times and the moments that we are in. Yeah.
So many people might question the budget around resilience when we are so handicapped because of the energy crisis that's ongoing. How do you perceive us coming out of this crisis so we can actually be resilient?
I think resilience is still, relevant to the conversation. We can't run away from it because, you will either persevere through crisis or you break down. I think what the minister is saying is you persevere through this crisis. Okay. In terms of energy, look, part of it is nature. We have to hope that the rains return to normal. But we still know that, for example, for Kariba to reach optimal levels, it will take some 5 years, what experts say. So this is not a problem that we will resolve immediately. So we also need investment in alternative energies and so on, but those also will take time. So I think a realistic expectation is our energy challenges will continue in the intermediate term. The immediate solutions obviously are one, the interconnector. So for example, the interconnector with Tanzania, that will also depend on liquidity, us being able to pay for power, because we already have an interconnector through the SADC power pool where we can get power from countries like Mozambique and South Africa. That the challenge there has been paying. So we need to understand what tariffs have been agreed with Tanzania. Are they affordable? How different it will be compared to, say, Mozambique. For us to reach a point where we say once that interconnector is finished, we have some significant relief. For now, I think mentally and psychologically we should just prepare for a prolonged challenge. Yeah.
Okay. So now the average Zambian out there, I can imagine, they probably think, this crisis has been ongoing for months and months and months. Why aren't there more IPPs, independent power producers, setting up shop and giving us more power? There seems to be some stagnation there in terms of more production coming online, and what do you think is the cause?
So I'm going to express a very personal view here. So there are two issues. One is generation, which is the IPP side. The other one is alternatives. So at domestic level, for example. So let me start with, say, alternatives in terms of domestic level. Part of the challenge we have is people, the ZESCO or MD is on record, the president as well, the minister are on record to encourage people to use alternative energies. That would primarily be solar. The cost of solar panels, batteries and so on has significantly increased since we've had this challenge. Now, my personal view, this is a personal view, is that if as the government saw a need for state intervention into mining, for example, that's how come we have Eagles mining and so on. Maybe it's time to sit back and say, yes, as a capitalist and I'm one, do we need state intervention in solar panels, the solar market, batteries and so on, because the cost has just become exorbitant. It's now a seller's market, meaning the buyer has to take the price that's offered. So maybe we need to have a conversation around state intervention in that market, either through ZESCO, bulk imports of panels, batteries and so on at cost, offload them on the market. You might not have to do it for too long, because as long as there's a stable alternative, maybe that will push the prices down and provide some competition. Because right now those alternatives are unaffordable, even though we are encouraging people to go to
and the demand is driving up
too high, yes. Then the other side of that is around LPG. So what you do with LPG is you take away the pressure, for example, of cooking away from the grid. You take away the pressure of, say, heating away from the grid. One of the key policies that we also need to resolve is around gas. Right now the policy is there, but it's not well defined. So, for example, in most countries, if I have a cylinder, it doesn't matter whether it's branded this way or whatever, I don't want to mention names. I go to any gas point I can exchange. We don't have a cylinder exchange. No. So in our market, if I have an orange cylinder, I have to go to an orange place. If I have a blue cylinder, I have to go to a blue place. That's very restrictive. It's also a challenge. So we need to resolve, supply of LPG, cost of cylinders, exchange of cylinders, investment in cylinders and gas infrastructure. As well. That will also help drive some of the pressure off the grid, because then what you are doing is, especially cooking, which stoves consume a lot of power, you are taking it away from the grid. Then we go to the IPPs. Again, IPPs, that's an investment. These are people who are asking to bring money on the table. They need a return. And it's acknowledged, unfortunately, that our tariffs are low. One of the things that we are doing as a firm is we release the report shortly, is just doing a comparative study of tariff structure across the region, our neighbors and so on. And by all indications, our tariffs are much lower. So we will not be able to attract much investment at a level at which our tariffs are now, because the IPP investors need their money. They need a return. They can't invest and not have a return. It's significant amounts of money that are required, for example, even to produce, 50 megawatts. CEC, for example, it's public knowledge, they are on the bond market. If you look at the money they've raised and the megawatts they are producing, it's a lot of investment. So that money doesn't come cheap. You need to be able to recover it. And currently, the general feeling among these investors is
Hello everybody, my name is Clarence Chongo. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Financial Insight, and I'm sitting here with Mr. Raphael Chipoma, who is the Chief Financial Officer for IDC, the Industrial Development Corporation. Welcome to Financial Insight and welcome to the EY Budget 2025 breakfast.
All right, thank you very much. My pleasure.
Okay, so obviously we're talking about the budget. The Honorable Minister of Finance kindly presented his vision for 2025 last week. What were your key takeaways from that budget?
Okay, thank you very much. I think for me, like most other Zambians, we were anxiously awaiting this budget.
Okay.
After the kind of year we've had in 2024, it was always going to be a different kind of budget. And I think the minister did not disappoint with the budget that he presented. I think for me, the key highlights of the budget was that it had the audacity and the ambition, after the year we've had, to go for a 6.6% growth.
Quite unexpectedly. I think that surprised a few people.
It did. And some schools of thought are saying, look, if you're coming off a low base, any growth, any number bigger will always be bigger. So there's that school of thought that's saying, actually, 6.6% is not that big, considering we're coming off a low base in 2024. But nevertheless, it is. I think it's great to see. I hope it stimulates the right kind of energy, the right kind of positivity, so that we can go after all the key areas that you have outlined in this budget and try to deliver on that growth.
Yeah.
Because we really need a turnaround, and we need that kind of positive outlook for 2025 for us to restate our nation.
So some positivism is required for us to deliver on that great ambition. Okay, so obviously EY do this every year, where once the minister presents his budget, they call experts to analyze it and talk about it and educate us all. What were your key highlights or takeaways from the discussion today?
I think congratulations to EY once again for having a very good and lively discussion.
Indeed.
Usually in these panel discussions, you don't actually get a discussion, but today we managed to get that. There are some really thoughtful insights that each of the panelists gave us. I particularly like the discussion around energy.
Okay.
It's topical at the moment, and I like the way the panel helped to take us through what are the things we should be thinking about, what are the actual challenges, and what are what's the path that we have to walk as a nation. Of course, the debate around the growth, whether it was too much or too low, also brought out some really, really deep insights.
Yeah.
So thanks for choosing a really good panel to EY, very diverse backgrounds, and they actually optimized what a discussion, a panel discussion should be about. It was a really well put together.
Yeah, so kudos to EY for this panel discussion. My own personal key highlight was the apparent consensus on the panel that the GDP growth is too ambitious and hence almost undeliverable. What are the key issues that you think are threatening delivery of that target?
Look, the obvious one that needs no introduction is going to be how we recover from the energy crisis that we are going through.
Indeed.
GDP is obviously a function of your energy and how you can power industries and so on and so forth. So that's going to be quite a challenge, and I think it's something that's received a lot of attention.
Yeah.
The budget obviously has put some measures as well to try and steer us into some kind of a recovery.
Yeah.
We're going to need rain, of course. And all these things will need to come together. I can guarantee you, my personal view is that if we didn't start fixing the energy crisis, we could have negative growth next year. But I think, thankfully, the meteorological department's forecast is we're going to have some relief. Everyone has done a lot to find alternative power sources. We're putting up generators, solar, and we're sort of more reactive, and we're setting a stage for next year. Food security and agriculture, as a source of that food security, obviously, is going to be another key area that we need to be successful in order for us to actually achieve the ambition of the budget. And I think there's enough that's been put into the budget. The reference to FIZ and how it's going to be restructured, obviously is all going to help with growth in the agricultural sector. So I think for me those two key things are the two that have caused all the difficulties that we faced in 2024. And we're expecting for that to turn around. That should really put us on the right footing for 2025.
Okay. Maybe diving just a little bit more deeply into the energy crisis. Obviously, this was forecast because we knew from sometime last year that there would be an El Nino event that would affect rain and cause severe drought. Since then, there seems to be very little in terms of progress on the diversification of our energy mix. What do you think is stopping us from, just getting the right mix so that in spite of the rain, we can still have good energy services?
I think it's a function of many things. I mean, the 8th National Development Plan has been very explicit about diversifying the energy mix and what we should be looking at as a nation. And I think it is something that you can't do in a hurry. It's something that takes a while, but I think we have slowly started to get there. I mean, with upwards of 80% of our power generation being hydro dependent, and probably we've been living in this comfort that hydro is environmentally friendly. It's supposedly not that expensive. So I don't think we have, as a nation, we have paid enough attention to the agency of having the mix.
Indeed.
I think this crisis has changed that.
It's woken us up a little.
It has taught us that that mix,
Yeah.
we have to dilute hydro significantly. And I think all the things that need to happen are happening.
Yeah.
The 300 megawatts that is going to come on stream at Mamba in the next 2 years will significantly help. We are talking about several solar plants that are going to be set up all across the country. There's 100 megawatts here, 100 megawatts there. All of that is going to help change the mix. So for me, I think what this year has taught us, yes, we knew it was going to happen, but probably we didn't know to what extent.
How severe
it would be. But I think it's woken us up. It's really shaken us quite a bit. And I think now we are set on the.
Hello everybody and welcome to Financial Insight and to EY Budget 2025 Breakfast. So it's been a very lively discussion panel here at Radisson Blu in the Big Dome. I'm sitting here with a stalwart of the energy industry. If you could please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you so much, Clarence. I'm grateful and honored to be on this interview with you, Financial Insight Zambia. My name is Susiku Nasinda. I'm a renewable energy and climate finance expert. I'm executive director as well as chief climate finance officer at NSN Energy Consulting. This is a newly established Zambian energy consulting outfit focusing mainly on development of renewable energy, supporting development of energy policy, as well as scaling up climate finance in Zambia, especially at a critical time like now when the country has been hit by drought and is experiencing the adverse impacts of climate change.
Thank you very much for that. So obviously the Honorable Minister of Finance presented his budget towards the end of last week. What were the key highlights for you? What did you pick out as the most salient points for Zambians to be aware of?
Thank you, Clarence. The theme of the budget sets the tone for 2025, building resilience for inclusive development and improving livelihoods. I picked some keywords from there. Resilience. I think at this particular time in Zambia's history, the country needs to be more resilient than it has ever been before. This is because in 2024, we were essentially hit below the belt. But wise people are on record to say that it's not how much you fall, but how great you rise after a fall. I believe that 2025 provides a good platform for Zambia to be able to bounce back as a strong country that is ready to take its place in regional and international development, to be a beacon of national development, to be a beacon of food security, and also to be a beacon of social protection and support. The next key word is inclusive development. Inclusive development has been demonstrated in the budget because when you look at the amount of monies that have been allocated towards protecting the vulnerable and social sectors, that is something noteworthy. First of all, there's been an increase in the amount allocated for social cash transfers. So we expect that probably the cash payments will go up as well as the number of beneficiaries. This protects citizens from being destitute and helps them to meet basic needs especially food, during this time of crisis. Also, there has been an emphasis on scaling up support towards the FIZ program. As you may know, smallholder farmers, peasant farmers, are the mainstay of agriculture in this country. They are the ones that produce towards building national reserves at the Food Reserve Agency. So the allocations that have been made towards FIZ are inspiring. My only worry is whether the inputs will be delivered on time in order to support planting as well as production of maize in a timely manner. As you may know, the projections are that we are going to have normal to above normal rainfall. We need to harness this. We need to tap into this resource that will come, this natural resource that will come in form of rain. But to do that, we need to be ready in terms of being able to distribute the inputs on time. The other key sectors of the economy, building sustainable livelihoods. Energy is one of the sectors which has been hard hit. And in order for the economy to recover, there is need for the country to pronounce itself clearly on what strategies the government will put in place for 2025 to make energy have a rebound. For example, we have seen regulatory reforms such as net metering. The implementation of net metering is quite important and pivotal. And also we have seen the open access market policy, where private developers are able to use national infrastructure, transmission infrastructure, to be able to deliver power to private users. I think those are key, but over and above that, I think the issue of the tariff is something that remains dicey. The minister is on record to have made it clear in the budget that no power is more expensive than expensive power. But what we saw recently when ZESCO made an application for an emergency tariff is not in sync with the times that we're in and the pronouncements of the minister. We saw ERB rejecting the emergency tariff, and as long as tariffs remain low, investments in the sector, the much needed investments, will not see the light of day. So let government be bold enough to be able to implement cost-reflective tariffs. I know ZESCO has a 5-year, multi-year tariff to increase tariffs progressively. We hope that in 2025, this will continue, and that in times of emergency, the regulator will be able to respond right to meet.
Coming back to this panel discussion today, I got the impression, I don't know if you got the same impression, that the experts who were sat right here were very skeptical of the minister's ability to deliver 6.6 GDP growth, and their projections were around 3%. What are your own key takeaways from the discussion that we had today?
Well, national development happens in an environment of key economic fundamentals. First of all, we need to talk about the exchange rate and its impact on the economy, and we need to talk about inflation and its impact on the economy, and then we need to talk about physical strategies in terms of fiscal consolidation. I'll speak to each one of those, but let me begin by the target which the minister has set. As an ambitious leader, I love the fact that the minister is being ambitious. I think as a country, when you become ambitious, when you set growth targets of 6.6%, it simply shows you that this is not time to play. It's time for Zambia to work hard. As you might be aware, Zambia has successfully restructured over 75% of its national debt and is drawing towards a closure for the remainder of the debt, which is the bilateral debts, which is the debt with private lenders as well as commercial debt.
Okay, so I get the impression that you don't agree with the experts' view that 6.6% is just too unreal. There's been a lot of discussion around energy this budget session. Obviously, the Honourable Minister came quick off the mark with his 2025 vision. What's your own assessment of that vision?
The vision, I'll start with a theme, building resilience. The building resilience to me already indicates that the government is aware of the challenges that are being faced in the different sectors of the economy. The largest one challenge at the moment being the energy crisis that we're facing. It has affected a lot of SMEs and different sectors. So building resilience and also how the capital has been allocated towards different sectors has been encouraging to see. Also the growth of 6.6% projected. It's been a controversial issue today, and whether it's realistic or unrealistic. But my take has been, if the government focuses on the partnerships between the public and the private sector, it can be achievable.
Okay, great. And as you just mentioned, there's some controversial views around the 6.6 GDP growth. Some panelists here thought it was a little bit overly ambitious and hence unrealistic and probably undeliverable. And I think one of them suggested 3%. What's your own assessment of that? Do you think, we are nearer to 3% than to 6? What do you think?
So I tend to agree. We are closer to 3% because remember the growth already, judging by the first and second quarter reports, already shows that the projected growth for 2024 is about 2% behind. So firstly, we need to work on coming back up in terms of the growth of the economy. We had unforeseen circumstances of the drought and the electricity, which has slowed down that growth. So before we can look at the 6.6% growth, it would be pertinent to first go back to the trajectory that was projected for this year and then come up. So 3% is realistic.
Clearly, the failure, if you like, to achieve the target for 2024 can be encapsulated by the elephant in the room, and that's the energy crisis. Obviously, business grinding to a halt in some sectors, as it were. So, what do you think we need to do to get energy right? Because it's been months and months and months, and Zambians out there are crying out loud for energy solutions that are sustainable and that can withstand shocks. Where are we getting it wrong, do you think?
Yes. Thank you for that pertinent questions. So starting with where we are getting it wrong, the energy experts, as the minister indicated during his briefing of the budget, said that for close to over 2 decades, actually, the energy experts in the sector have been encouraging us to diversify our dependence on hydroelectricity. I mean, 84% dependence on hydroelectricity is not feasible in any economy you're looking at, right? So the first way is to diversify that energy. We have a lot of hot springs around the country that we could take advantage of in terms of using thermal energy, for example. We have seen this work in Kenya. They use the thermal energy to generate. They almost had an energy crisis actually, but that was mitigated quickly because they use the thermal energy. So I think diversifying, today solar energy was also mentioned, but we need to realize that with the poverty levels in this country, solar now becomes an energy source that is restricted more or less to say towards the more privileged society. So alternative sources of energy are pertinent.